Good evening and welcome once more again on Viewpoint on DBS television tonight. Like usual, it is a program that is divided into two parts: the yes or no question, and of course the debate. With us here in the studio, we are having Susan Asanji. She is the founder of the Susan Asanji Foundation, whose mission is building and creating a better future for kids. And just to say that she has empowered over 1,000 youths in Cameroon. And we have Mange Venashus, your regular man to discuss certain issues. Good evening to you, Susan, and thank you very much for being part of us tonight.
Good evening, Vanessa, and thank you for inviting me here, and good evening to our viewers.
Mange Venashus, it's a pleasure seeing you again.
Good evening, Vanessa. Good evening to our viewers in the house.
Let us have a transition and we will be right back for the first part of the show. That is the yes or no question and answers. Once more, welcome back. Let us dive into the questions. Question 1. Is the coronavirus having any impact on the ongoing crisis in the Northwest and the Southwest regions? I begin with you, Susan. Yes or no?
No.
No. Mange Venashus, what do you say about that?
Yes, Vanessa, it does.
Yes, it does. Our second question for tonight: is there anything the state can do for vulnerable people in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic? To you, Susan.
Yes.
Yes. Mange Venashus?
I differ, I say no.
No. And our last question: is the silence of non-governmental organizations in the fight against COVID-19 acceptable? Susan?
No.
No. Mange Venashus?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. We'll take a yes. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned, for coming up next is the debate. Welcome back. In our first question, we asked whether the coronavirus is having any impact in the ongoing crisis in the Northwest and the Southwest region. And to you, Susan, you said no, it doesn't have any impact. What makes you think that the coronavirus has no impact in this ongoing crisis?
Well, I think the coronavirus has no impact in the ongoing crisis because it doesn't stop anything. Like, those boys are still doing their killings, and we still have the ghost town, and we still have, it's still the same. Things haven't changed. So I've not seen any impact. Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed.
Yes.
So don't you think that maybe it's going to worsen the crisis? Or don't you think that it will restrict more the movement of people? The little time they had to carry out their activities, coronavirus has come again to restrict them the more.
It has not restricted anybody from going out. People still go out. Because only on Mondays that you see they stay indoors, and just few even stay indoors, because even during the ghost town we still have stores that they are open. People go to the store to buy, so people still go out. Coronavirus did not change anything in the Northwest or Southwest region.
In the Northwest or Southwest region, neither in their economic activities.
No.
You think that it doesn't? Mange Venashus, but you rather think that it has actually created a lot of negative effect on the crisis going on in those regions?
Yes, I say it has an impact on the ongoing crisis. There's a difference between having an impact in the region or in the regions and then having an impact in the crisis. We know when this pandemic started, we were expecting that the impact would like slow down the rate of the ongoing crisis. But then what we are seeing is, the Northwest region now is one of the highly hit regions in the country with coronavirus. When it started, the rate was that slow, but all of a sudden it exploded, and we are now having the number that the Northwest region now has. What is happening with the crisis? Actually, people are afraid of coronavirus now more than the Amber boys, the military. Mm-hmm. Because coronavirus does not know the Amber, it does not know the civilian, it does not know the military. Coronavirus has no bounds. You can decide to remain at home. You can run away into the bushes. These are tactics that have been used in the ongoing crisis. But with the coronavirus, Whether you run to the bush, you still take coronavirus. Whether you go, whether you remain in town, you will still meet coronavirus. And just of recent, we were talking about the action of the SDO for Minchum Division, who has, prohibited the entry of corpses into his division. And what the local population has interpreted is like he is bringing his colonial mentality into the regions by handling coronavirus this way. And in that case, alienating the administrator away from the people. He has instead created a kind of hatred between the administrator and the people who still reads his action as another way of subjugating them, of humiliating them, of mishandling and suppressing their culture. And in that way, they are struggling to kick back. And as they kick back, the friction, it creates the friction between the people and the administrator. We know that the administrators in these regions, they have a heavy backing of the military. And once the people disobey, because they are outrightly saying that the SDO is, trampling into their tradition. And once they disobey the SDO, they are likely going to meet with the forces of law and order. And in that case, brings back the same scenario that they have been living. That is it. Brings back the same scenario they have been living before coronavirus. So ways of handling the virus has provoked, another phase of the crisis. There was this screening center, we called it a center, a screening mixed shift center that was created at the border between the west region and the northwest region at Matazim. When people were coming in, they were screening it. They were screening them before entering Bamenda, or northwest region. And they rate that as another custom checkpoint, delimiting the English-speaking region and the French-speaking region. And people are saying that you are going into another country. So it was kind of creating another notion for them to think that we are in two different countries. We are not, we are not facing the same pandemic. And with that, people still continue nurturing this idea that the northwest region is another country. The west region and part of Cameroon is another part of La République. So I think that the virus itself has impacted the ongoing crisis in such a way that instead of slowing it down, it is fueling it for it to continue to gain ground.
To gain ground. Thank you very much for your viewpoint. Susan Asanji, I will continue with you in our second question. Is there anything the state can do for vulnerable people in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic? And you say yes. You are one of those people that have come to meet some of these vulnerable people, some of these stranded youth, and you must have worked with them. And in one way or the other, you must have seen that no, the resources are not enough, or one thing is there and the other is not there. And you think that there is a lot the government can do to actually assist the vulnerable people in the fight against coronavirus?
Yeah, I think that the government can do a lot in assisting these vulnerable people, especially the street children, because we have a lot of street children that are always by the roadside selling. Some don't even have food to eat. So I think that the government can assist them by creating a center. The government can actually create a center and look for these street children and put them there. The government can actually distribute hygiene items door to door. The government can actually do that. They can do that. They have the money to do that because they have supported the government for this crisis. So the government can do that. The government can equally create a center to teach this soft skills acquisition for those that cannot, because the government gave online classes and not everybody can have access to that online classes. There are those that don't have TV. There are those that don't even have phone to have classes online. So the government can do something by providing those things to those children. Like in a quarter, the government can create a center. You just go and put a TV there for the children to come and sit, and they can have social distance. So the government can actually do that.
They can do that.
Yes.
And what more do you think of those that do not have places to live? Those that are stranded by the roadside, since we are talking of fighting the coronavirus.
That's why I said the government can provide a center. The government can actually build a place for them. Look for these street children, you put them there to stay there. Then you give them education, you give them soft skills acquisition.
Soft skill acquisition.
Yes, it can also reduce the high rate of crime in the country.
Manke Fenashus, you rather think that there is actually nothing the state can do for these vulnerable people during this health crisis. Meanwhile, these people, they are stranded. They don't have food to eat. They don't have shelter. In short, what of the blind?
People apart for the state to do something to them, for them apart in fighting coronavirus. I don't see it as practical as such. I like the way she explains, but then let's look at it in this way. If we create centers and bring these people again together, we are going against the, coronavirus came with its own conditions, which we are all obliged to respect. Distancing, reduce as much as possible areas where people could gather. And if we have to talk of handling them apart, I think that if it was something that we had to run, if it was something that we need to do some spending, we would say that vulnerable people cannot do it, physically challenged people cannot do it, street children cannot do it. But we are asking for basic hygienic conditions, just such like staying away from the crowd. They can remain.
But if the government actually create this center, they can actually practice the hygiene, the social distance there. So you cannot actually take care of them one after. It will not work that way. It will not work that way, like, because they don't have where to live. There are people in the street that they sleep under the tree. You cannot go and start doing social distance there or any hygiene thing there. You can just create that, build that center. Then you're actually taking care of them there.
And then after the coronavirus, like what I'm trying to say is something sustainable, something that is going to last for a very long time, not only for the coronavirus.
Not only for the corona. So she's giving a long-term solution to these vulnerable people.
Okay, we are talking about a government that is practically suffocating from lack of means. For the government to go into such long-term project,
the government is not actually suffocating. Maybe they are actually being selfish because they actually have the resources. They actually have it because they have supported this Cameroon government. Maybe they're not suffocating. They're actually selfish.
You have a point when you say that they supported Cameroon, because I remember when coronavirus started, there was some information here that the Cameroon government took a loan of 136 billion francs CFA from the World Bank. That is a fact. But when we listen to the report that was presented by the Minister of Public Health 2 days ago, he gave a detail of the Solidarity Fund. That is the fund meant to fight coronavirus. The contribution that came from Cameroonians is just about 1,680 something million francs, although the calculation is another matter. It's another matter of polemics. Yes, that should be in cash. Yes, but then people still gave in things, gave in items, in equipment. But then the money by itself is not sufficient. So carrying such long-term project would be like we are fighting a pandemic that is taking a fast trend, and we are projecting longer. Coronavirus needs immediate handling. So now we don't want to. It is something that we need to do now. Providing food for them? Yes, it could be possible. But then vulnerable people are not only street children. Vulnerable, they are vulnerable, they are poor.
Having the cripple.
They are poor. And when we cite them, like, we're going to talk of state of poverty. Poverty is in degrees. All of us are poor. The government, there are some measures which, if the government has to take, it should take for a cross-section of the people. I remember in some other West African country here, what they did there was they took charge of electricity, of water bills for those who consumed to a lesser extent. Electricity bill for those who consume to a lesser point. If for example, if you consume more than 100,000, the state doesn't pay.
Not forgetting that some underdeveloped villages were being distributed food.
Those are correct. Those are terms that I want to say when we talk of vulnerability in terms of coronavirus is a vast term that when we have to fight it, all of us are vulnerable because it attacks everybody. So what the state should do is to tackle the situation from a global point of view. If we are looking at it as vulnerable people apart, it will need long-term projects, like she is saying. But then long-term projects, there are necessities. We need ventilators. We need ambulances. And if money should be deviated again to carry out long-term projects, we are not refusing the fact that the state failed in the management of the coronavirus. That's a fact. But then we should try to look at the pressing need that we have now.
Mange Venatius, if I should understand your point, you're simply trying to tell us that these vulnerable people should be left at the mercy of the coronavirus.
No, not left at the mercy of coronavirus, but vulnerable people as the state, taking care of them apart. It becomes cumbersome for that
because
state.
It's not
a
long.
state
I think over 3 weeks ago, over some different TV stations, they were complaining that the government has neglected them.
People are taking this virus as if it is attacking areas of it. It is not attacking those who are able to do this, or if it was something that we had to run. Less privileged, physically challenged people talking of they are not able to run, they are not able to walk, we understand. Even if you are still sitting in your house, even if you cannot walk.
But what we're trying to, I understand your point, but what we're trying to explain, we're talking about those that cannot even afford. You at home, you can afford. You have money to go and buy your hand sanitizer.
Yes.
But those vulnerable people that don't even have the money, what will they do?
And that is why we are talking of goodwill gesture, called humanitarian gesture, gift from Cameroonians coming in. You find mayors, you find business people, you find companies. They are moving about sharing face masks, sharing hand sanitizers. But then for the government to talk of, my problem is the government should not talk of tackling the vulnerable people as if they were another section of the society. Coronavirus has no class distinction, vulnerable or not.
But they should actually look out for those in particular. For those they can handle for everyone, but the particular those ones,
attention.
Yes, they should give attention to that one.
Special attention should be given to them.
Special attention to be given to them.
That special attention should be given to them, and that is why they, forming part of the society, have been clamoring for this special attention even before coronavirus and post-coronavirus. They will still need to take special attention, because even away after coronavirus, they will not be able to go out. They will not be able to eat. They will not be able to do this. But when it comes to confinement, once you and I, we are confined, we are falling back into the same category, because food would be a problem. You don't work. Having hand sanitizer, if we respect the real principles of confinement, we will all fall back to the same category. So talking of vulnerable people apart, I think that the government has nothing to do to them as people apart. But then when it takes a global approach in handling citizens, I think they would just simply fit into the framework, and I think it will be a bit manageable, practical for the government.
Yeah, I think the government can do something about it.
All right. That is your point of view. Maybe you might end up debating on this particular issue. I understand you, because you are a humanitarian, and so you think more of the interest of these people. But that leads us into the third part of the show tonight. Do not forget that you're watching Viewpoint on DBS television every day from Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Our third question is the silence of non-governmental organizations in the fight against the coronavirus acceptable. To you, Susan Asanchi, you are actually a founder of an NGO.
Yes.
And you don't think that their silence is acceptable. So you said no to the question. Yes, why don't you think it's acceptable to an extent?
I don't think it's acceptable because movement was not restricted. We're not restricted to move in Cameroon. NGOs were not restricted. In fact, what I think in Cameroon, lockdown was only schools were affected because people still go to work. So I think it's not acceptable, because once you have a passion in doing a particular thing, nothing can stop you as long as you have that finance to go out to reach out to people. Nothing can stop you. We had a lot of people that were in need during this particular crisis, and if any NGO actually stayed quiet, it means that they actually don't have the passion, they actually don't have the heart of a humanitarian in them.
No. Looking at that, I'm comparing two things. When the ongoing Anglophone crisis broke out, we saw a lot of NGOs like coming, we want to assist, or we have assisted. They financed a lot of children to go back to some schools. They did one thing or the other, but when it came to the coronavirus, apparently we've not heard them being on the ground carrying out one activity or the other. And you think that it's not acceptable?
Yeah,
that their silence is
not acceptable. There's no excuse for that.
And you now, as a owner of a non-governmental organization, how have you contributed in the fight against the crisis?
I've done distributions in Douala, I've done in Limbe, I've done distribution in Chang. We are going to do another one in Yaoundé and in Bamenda soon.
And in Bamenda soon. All right, Mange Venashus, you rather think that their silence is acceptable in the fight of this coronavirus?
Yes, Vanessa, I like when you gave your question, you really specified that in the wake of the ongoing Anglophone crisis and the other crisis that Cameroon has been through, we've heard these NGOs, on the front line, actually. But then I was asking myself, from the constitution of these NGOs, you realize that some of them are, I could call them human rights activists. They come out for human rights. They want to find out what the government is doing so that they hit hard there. Now, with the coronavirus, a good number of them, all right, we have one with us who is saying, they have had, sessions in which they have assisted. But when we hear of some other human rights...
How many of them?
That is the question. Some human rights activists who have been out on certain issues in Cameroon, we don't hear them when it comes to coronavirus. And I just said it is acceptable because from their constitution, they don't think of such issues. Their point is we want to identify where the government has gone wrong, what the government has done that was not supposed to do.
I believe that as an organization, you don't even need to start looking at the government, because if you look at the government, you might never do anything. So you just have to just go ahead with what you are doing. If you have that passion, if you have that zeal for human life, you go out for it. You don't even need to look at the government.
And that's why I think that human life here, it doesn't matter from which angle it is being threatened. So we should have heard them. Many of them, in fact all of them, we should have heard them during this crisis period. But we don't have them. That's why I said it is acceptable, because they have proven to us that their main target is not to find out the well-being of Cameroonians, but then their target is to,
it means you are not actually accepting, you are actually saying no.
I am accepting that their silence is acceptable because from their nature they are not concerned with other things. They are concerned on finding out the loopholes, the failures of the administration of the government, so that they can criticize. And from there I ask the question, what is their agenda?
What is their agenda?
What is their point? What do they gain just from criticizing the government? Because one should have been expecting them now. Human right is not only limited when you are abused. Human right is limited when your health is also in question. So they should also come out to talk of how people should fight this. They should carry out sensitization to the ground. Then, in that case, we would have been saying that they are non-governmental organizations. But then, at one point, I would qualify them as non-governmental organizations with a goal, because their goal is what is politically. Most of them are politically inclined, and most of them politically inclined being teleguided from abroad. That is why their target is just to see how to talk about this. But when there is a serious issue, now a health challenge, remember that I said coronavirus knows no bound. It has no political connotation, no religious connotation. Whether you are SDF, CAMTO, or CPD, MPOBIA, we don't know you. Coronavirus doesn't know you. And in that case, most of these non-governmental organizations are in the background. They are just as silent as churches are. So that when coronavirus will come out, we'll finish.
When talking, don't involve churches. Let's just focus only on the non-organizations.
No,
because I don't think churches. Not all churches are silent.
Are silent.
Yeah, not all.
But what we are trying to bring out here, Susan, is the fact that when it came to the Anglophone crisis, they were talking about what is actually keeping them now away from the coronavirus. Is it that all of a sudden NGOs have become scared, churches also are scared to talk about the virus, or they are also running away from it? Meanwhile, we believe that they were supposed to be one of the organizations in the fight of the coronavirus.
That's why I say that there is no excuse for being silent.
Yes, madam. If churches
are not all churches are quiet. Not all churches are silent, because not all churches are silent.
Yes, because these churches that carry out night vigils, prayers, healing epilepsy, healing HIV/AIDS, healing tuberculosis. This is a pandemic. They should try their strength now by healing coronavirus. That's what I mean by the churches have been silent. And when coronavirus will finish, they will organize delivery services.
No, I'm not saying I'm against your point. I'm saying that
not all churches.
Not all churches. Okay, when you say all, it means you're not committing a fallacy.
I understand. Right.
But to a greater extent, only few are doing that.
Yes, only few.
Okay, so what I was saying is like, okay, let me not touch churches, that non-governmental organizations. And some of them, majority of them are silent. And when coronavirus would finish, they will come out. The government has done this. The human rights people have been abused here and there. but we do want to hear them now. They may not have the means, but they should join one or two non-governmental organizations, join the government, join some elite, some politicians, carry out the sensitization campaign that people are going about here. They don't have money, but they have money to sponsor their meetings. Most of them, they are sponsored from abroad. They don't have money to share hand sanitizers and face masks. We are talking about vulnerable people. This is what we should have been hearing non-governmental organizations, touching them, like you say your organization is doing. We should hear some of them touching them to make sure that we help them fight coronavirus, because the fight for coronavirus is at an individual level now. It is not the government who will come and fight it for you. So we need to raise that awareness in the people to know that you fight the pandemic as an individual at your level first, then we can talk of it from a community level, global level, national level, and then we'll be able to fight the pandemic.
All right. To that now, Mange Venasius, your closing remark to our televiewers watching us at this particular moment concerning NGOs.
Concerning NGOs, they know the purpose for which they are created. I believe the Ministry of Territorial Administration, by validating their activities in Cameroon, they presented their objective, and the minister judged that it was attainable, it was acceptable, and created them. But then we would rather think that they should have helped the government this time in fighting they're not helping the government, they are helping Cameroonians.
Your recommendation?
Yes, so my recommendation should simply be that Cameroonians should take the fight, make it, I insist, make it their. It is their fight. It is not the fight. We don't depend on the government. We don't depend on non-governmental organizations. We don't depend on churches. We don't depend on anybody. You decide to preserve your life first, and then whatever others are bringing now will just help in the process, and we may kick out coronavirus from Cameroon.
And to you, Suzanne, your closing remark before we end the show concerning NGOs in particular.
Well, I just want to encourage every organization to go out and do something, because this is a time we want to see them. This is a time that the people need them. This is the time. So I just encourage every NGO to go out and do something.
All right. She's encouraging every NGO go out and do something, and truly, because this is the time that a lot of vulnerable people need your assistance and not counting only on the government. Thank you very much, Susan, for coming, and to you, Mange Venasius. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching Viewpoint on DBS Television. Tomorrow we will be right back, same time, same show, and of course the same presenter. Until we meet again, do take care and have a blessed night.